This is Gloria, your life coach. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Life's a Shuffle.
Hey, this is Ron Johnson, your life coach, leadership coach, motivational speaker, and health coach. And today we have two special guests. It's Brett and Cheryl, and they're going to be discussing a family dealing with an autistic kid. So, Brett, kind of give our audience something about yourself. Who are you? Kind of get some knowledge of your background.
Well, I'm 52. We have 3 children of our own and 4 grandchildren. The youngest child of ours is on the autism spectrum. By trade, I'm a QA professional in a pharmaceutical company. And I guess outside of that, I was born in South Carolina, but we moved around like the whole U.S. before I finally settled in California and got married at the age of 22. And we've been married for about 30 years. Exactly 30 years.
30 years.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
And let's see, I'm a cyclist. And I think that's pretty close to it. Me in a nutshell.
Okay. How about you, Cheryl? Tell us something about yourself, too. Besides being married 30 years. We know that now.
It is in that case, right?
Yeah.
I'm Cheryl, and born and raised in California. Professional mom, been promoted to grandma.
That's a good one.
That's nice.
I've been, I don't know. I have a drinking problem of too much coffee. I prefer good coffee. I love my coffee. Oh yeah, go Ducks. And that's about it. I don't know.
That's good enough. We know you love coffee, and I will second that. I love a good cup of coffee. I don't just like the watered down 7-Eleven and Starbucks sometimes coffee. I like the great homegrown coffee, black for sure. No cream and no sugar. That's always the best way to
Why
go.
would you run it by putting something in it?
We can,
Exactly.
Oh, same here. I have an addiction. I can't function without it.
So I wanted to know, Cheryl or Brett, you guys can go first. Kind of enlighten us, especially myself and our audience. What is autism?
Well, actually, that's not a simple question. Simply because it's on a spectrum, which means there are characteristics that people can exhibit that are on the autism spectrum, and there's a number of different characteristics. Everything from social challenges to sometimes they're nonverbal. They can have stimulation issues, things like that. So it really isn't a simple question where each case is unique, just as each person is unique. But it's basically a collection of mannerisms that they will have to a greater or lesser degree. I guess that's the kind of the nutshell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have a question? So from what I understand, your youngest child has autism, and I know that also from what I've read, there are different types. Mm-hmm. Now, how old is it your son?
Yes, it's our youngest son. His name's Connor.
Connor? Yeah. And how old is Connor now? And is what type of autism or disorder does he have?
Yeah, and
he is 21. It is at the time when he was diagnosed, he was considered high functioning because he's verbal. Now, I couldn't explain to you because they've now changed the way that they define it. It's now like levels.
Yeah, but he doesn't do well in social situations. He has challenges with that. Communication with him is usually on a fairly basic level. Even though he speaks very well, he doesn't communicate very well. And I'm sure you know there's a big difference between speaking and communicating.
Yeah.
Right.
Physically, he's 21, but mentally, situational, he can be preteen to maybe mid to late teen.
Okay.
So,
And okay, how old was he when he was diagnosed?
he was about 7. If we had known what we know now, we would have identified it much earlier, as well as, of course, this was in 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, when the field itself was not all that good at doing identification and classification.
Connor was originally diagnosed with a speech delay with autistic-like signs. Back then, we had no clue what that meant. And they told us, oh, he'll probably outgrow it. But we still had no clue what that meant. Being that he was the youngest, we figured everybody was kind of doing the talking for him. So that was why he had the speech delay. As he got older, more signs were coming out, the aggression side. Milestone wise, he met all of his milestones. He did lose his language. But we just kind of wrote it off as him being the baby and everybody kind of talking for him.
Mm.
So if I get it here, you guys said if you knew what you know now, you'd have done things different. Did it take a while to find out Connor was diagnosed with the autism, or was it the fact over the years things have kind of changed scientific wise, or what has happened that has made you guys kind of wish you'd done things different?
Well, the information about autism is really not generally available to young parents. So it really makes it challenging because every parent doesn't know what they're doing. So, and that's just for a neurotypical child. And when you encounter one who is expressing some differences, you just really don't know exactly what that is or how to deal with it. Unless there's like an extreme difference, then you can probably identify that and react differently. But autism is harder to identify because, especially if you aren't aware. And also at the time, we were working through the school district, and school districts are not exactly incentivized to identify special needs because of the financial challenges with providing education for those with special needs. So we had to eventually go through the regional center to obtain a diagnosis. And since we didn't know enough to advocate very well, it was challenging. But we got very lucky that we did have some early folks in the school district that tried to steer us in the right direction, even though their hands were a bit tied, as well as we ran into some really good people at the regional center that really helped us in those early identifications and educating us very quickly.
What I have to say is that being, like we said, Connor was diagnosed when he was in kindergarten, and one of the teacher's aides in his classroom actually went to the regional center as a field trip. And she had brought me the information, and she didn't know exactly how to approach me with it, but she's like, we went on a field trip here. You should talk to these people. I think they can help you a lot better than what you have now. Back then, the only person that I knew of is a lady at church that had children on the spectrum. She had 3 at different levels. And when I had told her that Connor was diagnosed, she was kind of like, oh, thank God. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, I seen the signs in him, but I just didn't know how to tell you. And so I'm like, what do I do? What does this mean? And her biggest thing was, don't let it rule your family. And so when the teacher's aide gave us that information, we went ahead and followed through. And like Brett said, we got lucky. Our first case coordinator, she was the one that trained all the coordinators, and she was the one that was like, you need this, this, and this, and this. And we're like, no, we don't. She's like, no, trust me, you need to do this. And it's like, okay. So we kind of gotten lucky throughout the years. We still have some downfalls here and there, but overall.
In particular, at the early stages when we really didn't know much, we got very lucky to have some key people that really helped guide us in our lack of knowledge.
Yeah. And it got to the point where we had to get an advocate at one point, and, calling around the advocate that we have. A couple people knew, they'd asked if I called around, and I'm like, well, I talked to this one person, and they're like, well, you know what? You're in good hands with him.
Yeah.
So we've had an advocate since Connor was in first grade? Kindergarten. Something like that. First kindergarten, first grade. So he's helped out a lot, and where he educated us as far as the laws and being more of a voice for him, and teaching us how to look things up and observe and ask certain questions. If he felt that we can handle doing certain things, he would, tell us how to do it. And, if you have questions, send it to me and I'll answer it and stuff.
So, yeah.
That's pretty much, we just kind of got lucky.
Is a lot of families in you guys' that you've met? So I'm curious now. Have you guys met families outside church that have had kids with autism and they were not as lucky as you? That's why you guys feel you guys are more lucky in a sense, or just things happen in the right place at the right time?
Yeah, no, we've ran into many families that are not nearly as lucky for a number of reasons. Either they don't have the will or the resources to advocate for their child. They don't know better, or they're busy. It's not an easy thing. You take on a lot, and it's hard on the family. It's hard on you personally. There are many relationships that don't survive it.
Yeah, there's a high rate of marriages that end up in divorces, and it's an all around struggle.
Yeah,
and you have your single family, so you have your your blended families. It hits everybody at different levels.
Yeah. So yeah, we have definitely seen many who, for a number of reasons, or they weren't given the information that we were at an early age, and they didn't internalize it and do anything with it. So, and we have to seek out resources because they're not readily there. You can't rely on the school district, unfortunately.
And you can't always rely on regional center either.
No. So you have to do a lot of hunting, searching, looking for things, and coming up with answers on your own. So it's so challenging when you're already doing everything else that families have to do.
I tend to find that, younger ages, when I would go to certain support groups or talk with some other mothers, we kind of exchange things, and some moms were willing to, share their information, and some were a little hesitant about sharing because, if they have something good, it's like, well, we don't want you to invade in that. So it's like, okay, well, I would always share what I had, and, hey, if it works for my son and it works for your son, more power to you. But I always found it a struggle as, getting, just coming across certain families that were not willing to share.
Yeah. And you can understand that. Some of the resources that are out there are limited, where they can only service so many children. So, in some ways they don't want to have that information too widely spread because it may impact their ability to participate.
Wow. You know
Wow.
what? I was listening to that, and I see it in business environment, a lot of environments where it's like I know something, so I'm not going to share with you, even though it can help you. I'm not going to share because I'm keep it to myself. It makes it if we were more of a collective unit and helping each other out. But then again, you got that bigger force on the side, like you mentioned, Brett, that the school systems or certain cares is very limited, and it's like, okay, well, we should be helping each other out. It's very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want you, if you guys can do me a moment, I want to go a little deep on this one. Walk us through. First, I want to hear the feelings from both you, Brett, and Cheryl, and then I want you guys to walk us through the thoughts. So I want to hear about the feelings. What happened when you first found out Connor was diagnosed with autism? And you guys have kids that are younger than him or older than him? I missed that point.
No, he's the youngest.
He's the youngest, right?
Of
Yeah.
how
Okay.
many?
Three.
We have two
Okay.
older boys. The oldest is 30, and then the middle one is 25.
Oh, you guys have all boys.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay, we're getting female dominated on the grandchildren.
There you go. It's making up for it.
Yes.
Yeah, we have 3 granddaughters and 1 grandson. So
Oh, that's how it worked out that way, right?
Yeah.
Back end.
Wow.
go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, when we first found out, my wife, I have to admit that throughout the journey, she has done more of the heavy lifting, just because she spends more time with Connor and she has more, I wouldn't say available time because no parent really has available time, but she had she was taking care of the home where I was at work. Okay. So she was, I'll let her speak to her feelings, but I don't know. I was more, okay, what do we need to do? What does this mean type of thing. I tend to be pragmatic, I guess, in most cases. So, but I didn't, I think, fully realize early on exactly what that journey was going to entail. I probably would have been more strongly impacted at the beginning if I really had seen the path ahead of us. So for me,
More of an optimism in this case, like you thought that, okay, we'll be able to figure it out, everything will work out kind of thing.
yeah, it's like you get a diagnosis. This is what's going on. We got to figure something out. We got to have some sort of treatments, therapies, et cetera, like that. So I was just treating it as, I wouldn't say as, any type of, if you got sick or something like that, but in my mind, it almost was that. It certainly is not that, but at that early stage, in some ways, I was lucky that that was my immediate perception. And in some ways, it is that where you do need therapies, but the other one is to realize that there's not something to be cured here. That is who they are. So it's not a matter of curing; it's a matter of giving them tools to cope with life, as opposed to trying to cure them, because there's, like I said, nothing inherently wrong with someone with autism. They just view things differently, and they operate a little differently than our common societal rules, and they have to be given the tools to help them bridge that gap.
Okay.
As a parent myself, I was just thinking just a second on your comment, Brett, that for me, I'm very optimism. So meaning that, oh, my kids got sick, you think of a common cold that, okay, well, the doctor, knows some medication, you can prescribe something and, in time it'll all work out. We'll find the right facilities and care. And just like I said earlier in the beginning, that it's so wide as a spectrum. You can't say if this way is the right way or if that way is the wrong way. It's just, you got to just, I guess, trial by error, be extremely persistent in finding more answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering though that because me as a mother myself, that would probably hit me a little different. So I'd like to hear Cheryl's how she felt on this when you first found out, because I'm wondering if it's a little bit more different for men. In some cases, I know I've heard, for a mother, it kind of takes a while for that to sink in. Not that you want to look at your kid, that there's something wrong with your kid, because no matter what, you will love them the way they are. But the thought of, did I do something wrong? Was it me? I've heard of these questions, or mothers questioning themselves, and at some point even just being in denial about it, with that their child could have a disorder, and probably just keeping them the way they are and not getting any help at all. Since we've heard Brett, Cheryl, would you like to share what you felt when you first found out?
I think I kind of went into this, okay, what is this? I was trying to find answers as to what it was, what I needed to do to help them. I wasn't looking for a cure. I just needed answers as to what are we up against? That might sound wrong. And talking to my friend that had 3 kids on the spectrum, and her telling me, don't let it rule your family, because then it's going to drag you guys down more, and it can harm your marriage more than anything else. You have to keep on going like it's normal, whatever normal is. The one thing that always comes to my mind is I went to a conference and there was a mother there, and she was talking about it. And in her speech, she had said, you bring this beautiful child into the world, and you have all these hopes and dreams, and, going to college, going to high school graduation, going to prom, getting married, becoming some type of professional, and then you get this diagnosis, and you kind of let it sit there and sink in, and you realize that all those dreams just went out the door. But then you kind of get over your mourning, and you realize that you can still have those same dreams for your child. You just got to do it a little bit different. And that's always stuck in my mind, is that we can still have the same dreams for Connor. It's just got to be a little bit different. We got to tweak it to his abilities. And going through this journey with Connor has opened my eyes to things a whole lot differently than with the rest of my kids. It always makes me stop and think, step back a little bit when I see a kid tantruming and the mom just kind of like, you can tell she's at her wit's end. It's like, you don't know what's going on with that child. That child may be getting overstimulated because of a sound or a light or a smell or, something. It doesn't necessarily mean that child is a brat and, being, bratty and tantruming, there may be something else going on more. And there are moments where Connor will just make you want to go, and then you just kind of sit back and he makes you laugh. And you see the world in a different point of view. Do things bug him? Yeah, but not like they would normally bug us. And sometimes I envy that. I was like, I'm going to sit here and sing and talk to myself and not care what the next person thinks. I'm going to fart and, oh, well, if it smells. Or just walk away. That's just kind of how he is. you know, but, so it's just kind of been an up and down journey that I wouldn't change it. Oh,
there's some days.
Yeah, there's some days, but
that's every child.
Yeah, but overall, I wouldn't want him any other way.
Wow.
You know what? Listening to what you said, Cheryl, is that it's one thing I think it's very paramount in civilization, is that we form our life from judgment. So, how you said when you see that parent dealing with a kid, you don't know what's going on. We're so quick to judge it. And since having Connor, now you think things are completely different because you don't know what's going on, who, what, when, where, and how something may be happening, right? Because what you have to deal with as a parent. When we come through these different stages, now Connor is 17, correct?
21.
21.
Okay. 21. Would he always rely on you guys for help, or can he ever have a normal adult life like on his own?
We're not entirely sure. There are a lot of things that he is completely independent about, but there's also a number of things that he relies on us quite a bit. So I would say that he has the potential, if he develops a few more skills in certain areas, with the right supports, he could live an independent life. Okay, so, it might be that we stop by periodically or someone does just to take care of them, or maybe he doesn't think to order things for himself that he needs, so you put it on a routine order or things like that. Some supports to give him that. But he, does all of his hygiene. He washes his own clothes, makes his meals. It may be rather repetitive meals, but he makes his own meals, things like that. So, but there are a few things we need to instill upon him. So he has that potential.
So it does, as he gets older, there could be changes, or he could grow out of certain habits, I guess I would say.
I wouldn't say he would be growing out of those habits because they're fairly ingrained at this point. I think he can learn additional tools to help address those, and like I said, to make it to where he can more successfully navigate our society.
Okay. So with both of you, with the journey that you guys had experienced through these years from when he was diagnosed to now, what emotion stages have you guys experienced or you guys experienced?
Oh, shoot.
And I know you said it was up and down.
Name it. There's like, there have been numerous times where you feel like you just can't do it. You're going to give up. But, those pass because realistically, are you going to give up? No, you're not. Do you want to? Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wish it was simpler? Yes. Okay. And
are there times when you have other friends whose kids do certain things that you kind of envy or wish your child would do? Yeah. And the same thing goes with, that friend as well too, is like, God, I wish my son would do this, and like Connor, or it's like I said, it's kind of an emotional roller coaster. It just depends, really. When we're dealing with the school district, there's many times where I'm just like, trying to get services, you just want to bang your head up against the wall, and or when he's just kind of in that mood and being a little bit of a jerk, and you're just like, okay, forget it, I don't want to do this anymore. And then he'll do something that will make you laugh, or just kind of like look at him and you're like, okay, this is why I do this. You know, I have to say, thinking back, we were in one IEP, and the district psychologist, she, I know people won't like it. She told me he was going to be mentally retarded, and I just needed to kind of give up on him because he wasn't going to achieve to anything. And I pretty much looked at her and I'm like, you know what? He's going to amount to something. And I hope and pray to God that one day maybe he's a self-made man and he comes back and he can flash some money in her face and be like, look what I did. Let me help you. And be like, no, and give her the bird and walk away. And she just kind of like looked at me, and I'm just like, yeah, that's what I hope for. That's what I dream, is that my son can turn around and come back and, give you the finger and say, you didn't believe in me.
Yeah.
And
yeah, go ahead.
And maybe that's a little harsh to say, but that's...
Oh, it's not the harshest thing we've said about school districts.
No, it's not. But I mean, it's school districts. I ran across a couple of people that have basically told me that I should just give up on him because he's not going to amount to anything. And it's like, you know what? He's going to be the best person that he can possibly be. And actually, he's made me a little bit better person.
Mm-hmm. What you've shown there is unconditional love to your son. Like nobody can tell you anything because only you, that's your child. That's not, he's not their child, right? And I can't even imagine how hard it was for you guys. And I know that I could see how sometimes it could be draining. I'm wondering, how did this affect the other two boys?
Oh, now that's more complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, just imagine, I could only imagine the attention that you guys had to give Connor. Yeah. And then, but yet you have the other two older boys that you also have to tend to.
Yeah. And some of it, that's a complicated answer because there is zero doubt that it did impact our entire family, every member of our family. And it asked things of our other boys that should not be asked of them, to be patient, to recognize that Connor did take additional time that we couldn't spend on them. We certainly, as parents of 3 children, we wanted to try to give each of our children attention. I wouldn't say that it was equal. It just couldn't be. But we certainly wanted to make sure each of them felt like they at least had attention, and that each of them had their own relationship with us and with each other. It was also more challenging because even though both of them really love their little brother, they've had to develop a different relationship with him than probably than a sibling, and had to negotiate that. And just as we have moved through Connor's life and his challenges, so have they. And as children, they, of course, have less tools to deal with that.
Yeah.
What I heard a couple of times in you guys' voice, is a school system school system broken in your perspective?
Well, you got to understand, school systems they have a mandate to teach children, okay? And they are built around a typical curriculum model. And by definition, the special needs community doesn't fit within that model. That's why each of them does have an IEP, which is an individual educational plan, because it's understanding that the typical plan does not work, which means that per child, they're going to spend more resources on that particular community. So when they are looking at the different things that are required for each child, it becomes a negotiation. Okay, because they have certain resources that are set up and budgeted to support the special needs classes, which are already in excess of their per child cost for your neurotypical child. So whenever there is something that they needed that steps out of that budgeted cycle, they have to resist it just because of resources. And on top of that, it's extremely challenging to educate them. So you find teachers uh, that don't last that long because it is a lot more challenging. They have to have specialized training, which many of them don't get to the extent that they need. Okay. So that's kind of when you look at it all the way from the district level down to the individual teacher level, they have the special needs community in general they have real challenges in dealing with how to address that appropriately. So even with the best of intentions, they have challenges. And then when you put into the fact that they try to service the majority of their children more than the minority, which are the costly minority, you can see why they're going to struggle with that.
Besides finding all these resources and doing all this research, did you guys attend one of those like meetings with other parents who might also have been going through the same situation as you guys are? I know that there's one called Parents Helping Parents out there. Did you have to?
When we lived in, we originally lived in Southern California, and my friend that has the 3 kids on the spectrum, she started up a parent support group. It was called Open Doors Now. It's since has disbanded, but at the time when she was starting it, she had it open to SELPA teachers, parents, eventually the younger adults on the spectrum. And it was a lot of resource there. When we moved up to Northern California, I touched base with Parents Helping Parents. And I had got a lot of good resources out of that. And they kind of directed me in certain ways, for certain things and stuff. And then just kind of talking to other parents. And I eventually got into a parent support group up there. It's called MOCA. And they have started a lot of other little programs and get-togethers and things like that. And we just kind of try to reach out as much within the community with other parents and stuff.
Yeah, in particular, that's helpful for autistic children because they do have so many challenges forming social bonds that you do want to touch base with other parents so that you can start to build a social network for your child.
And for yourself too, as well.
And for yourself as well. So definitely parents you got to find something. I wouldn't say there's one group that will work for everyone. It's just you have to find the right one for yourself and for your family. But it is a crucial point. Some of the children and parents that we met through MOCA are still close friends for ourselves as well as Connor.
Yeah, and
Wow.
And Connor is also part of Angels on Stage, which is a theatrical group up there in Northern California, and we're still friends with a lot of them, a lot of the parents there, and the kids as well, which is also good for Connor. Down here in Southern California, we have gotten him into the Ed Asner Family Center, and that has been great for him. They have a lot of good programs there, and
we've met less parents there,
Yeah,
but definitely he's met a lot of children.
Young adults
young
there
adults.
that he definitely likes. One of the big things that he is currently doing there is they have a movie critique chat on Saturday nights, and he's gotten to see certain friends there through Zoom, and he will remind us that he has this meeting that he
multiple times.
Yeah, he has to, attend to, and so we have to make sure dinner's done by a certain time. Or, he originally got there through a voiceover class. So he met a lot of the young adults through that. So it's like you said, it's hit and miss and families and stuff.
Yeah. Here we found less families in the environment that we've clicked with. A few through Special Olympics around here.
Yeah, a few through the high school.
Yeah.
As well.
But not really an organization here. Like I said, the Special Olympics is probably the closest.
Yeah.
And this is where you guys are in SoCal right now, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But it was the same up in Northern California. We were involved in Special Olympics there, and we had a similar experience there where we met good families there, even though a lot of them overlapped with his Angels on Stage group as well. But still, yeah.
Okay.
So it seems you guys needed a lot of support regarding if you guys. So it seems like the more community you have for Connor and for yourself, the better it makes the environment. Is that what I see happening here?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Yeah, that's okay. So with Connor and you both, Brad and Cheryl, if you guys have a better community surrounding yourself and Connor, does it make it overall a better scenario for you guys? Dealing with the challenges and the changes?
Yeah, definitely. It kind of gives you people that understand your situation that you can talk to, as well as, like I said, people that Connor can interface with that understand him. So that's certainly useful. In some people's cases, it may be a strong family group. We've seen some families where that is really their primary, where they have a really strong family
unity.
that not just the immediate parents, but an extended family that are very supportive. Not every family is going to have that, but you have to have some sort of community, whether it's family or otherwise.
Or friends or support groups. Like they say, it takes a village.
Yeah.
And not every autistic child's the same. No one's the same.
No, it's like a fingerprint. No one's the same, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
So, but you learn from each other. What might work for me might not work for you. But what you found that doesn't work for you might work for me, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. I remember I work in the personal training industry, so people come to me and say, "Hey, I went online, I found this keto diet, or found this diet, or these programs." I say, always, here's the thing. Diet, just like a fingerprint, are not the same, and you got to try some, see if it works. Because certain diets work for some people and they just don't work for others. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. Just didn't work. Maybe the circumstances, the stress at work, maybe you have certain eating habits or disorders. So you always got to try some, see if it works. That's the best avenue.
Right.
I have one very important question.
No.
Yes, of course. How has this affected you guys' marriage? Has it brought you guys closer together? Has it been strained at times? What has it been?
Strained a lot.
The one thing that keeps him around is his paycheck.
Yeah. That's why I can't retire.
That's the way
Good
to
one.
do it.
That's
I love it.
why would I let him be happy and divorce him? No.
No, it's a balance between insurance payoff and my paycheck. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Lesser two evils, right? That was a good answer. I wasn't expecting that, but it made me laugh. I loved it.
We've had our ups and downs.
Mhm.
I will admit I'm pretty brutal to Brett, and I get frustrated and annoyed and take out probably more than I should on him. But he's there. He's my backbone. And we laugh a lot. We may not cry together. But we're here. And we try to do the best we can. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It's keeping you guys, something here is keeping you guys strong together. And I think that you just really touched me there. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep it together here too.
We have, our biggest thing is that we try to make each other laugh. We have to find the sense of humor, the humor in things. Otherwise, it's going to drive us batty. And Brett is very sarcastic. And
that's my natural defense.
Yeah. So that kind of helps break up the things. And people say that we balance each other out, where he's more logical and I'm more, you know what, let me just take you out to the parking lot and beat you because you just annoy me.
My role in IEPs is to make sure everyone makes it out alive.
The thing is that they always want to in IEPs, they always kind of want to be like their side, your side. And I will go and find the person that's taking the notes and sit right there next to them. Yeah.
They get used to that after a while. The first couple of times it sets them off. But yeah, no, I tend to take more of a long-term approach to things. In my mind, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of tend to be a stabilization, where I tend to look at long-term, and I don't get too excited by when certain things come up. Cheryl is a little more volatile, but at the same time, she draws attention to things that I'm more likely to let go. So it's not that either of us is right. It's just that between the two of us, we hit the right.
And I can tell them, you're ugly and you smell bluntly, and he can turn around and tell them it in a more polite way, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah, which is just stupid. You know how many times we've been in a meeting, because I will say, unfortunately, we run into, because we run into gender and racial biases. Because my wife is Mexican, and she tends to be a little more volatile and blunt in her language. I will go in and say the exact same thing she does. I just use a better vocabulary, and they listen to me. Silly. And there are a number of times I'm like, I didn't say anything she didn't say. I just used different words. What the heck? Hey, but you don't listen to her. You'll just, oh, okay.
That's interesting right there. I bet that happens a lot of times where they look at your wife and like, hey, well, she's flying off the handle again. They listen to you. Oh, wow. Okay. He's more sensible. I said the same exact thing, just a different manner. Yeah. How people interpret things is always a difference, right?
Yeah. But like I said, she can also bring topics out into the light much more easily than I can. So So, like I said, it's not, neither one of us has the right approach. It's just together we have a successful approach.
And like what Cheryl is saying, you guys balance each other out. And you guys have that good balance. I have a question. What advice would you give some of our listeners out there who would have a child that might have autism, but maybe not in that stage of accepting it to where they don't want to go out there and get help?
First of all, because of the internet and the number of sites out there, they have more ability now to get information as well as good information. Granted, it is the internet, so there's the bad too. Yeah, but you can get some good, credible organizations out there to give you advice where we had to dig for answers. Okay, so first, just educate yourself. Yeah, you need to know. Yeah, and second, the advice that Cheryl's friend gave is completely accurate. Don't let it rule your family. It will change your family. There's no way that's not going to be the case. But we did things very early and continuously. For example, making sure that we went to theme parks. Okay, Connor couldn't stay in line, so we developed it to where he could stand in line and wait for rides. We weren't going to deny our family the ability to go to someplace like a Disneyland because of him, or deny him that experience. Going out to restaurants can be a challenge, but he learned. Just do normal things. And there are going to be limitations, sure. But at the same time, if you don't push against those limitations, you will truly limit your child and your family.
And now there are certain airlines that will hold certain days for the kids to get a chance to go onto a plane, and they may not take off, but they'll know what to expect if they were to go on a flight, on a trip, on a plane. When Connor was younger, we didn't have any of that availability.
But we went on vacations anyway.
Yeah, we went on vacations anyways, and we just learned that, we'll have to do a layover, so that way it gives him a chance to decompress and, hope for the best on the next route. Have we gotten stuck on the tarmac a couple of times? Yeah, and we got lucky that he fell asleep. Yeah. And, when Connor was young, and like Brett said, getting him to learn to wait in line. He first started out in ABA, and they're like, what is one of your biggest goals? I'm like, getting him to learn how to wait. And they're like, well, how long do you want him to wait? I'm like, 45 minutes to an hour. And they just looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, if we're going to go to Disneyland or something like that, that's about the length of a wait. And they're like, all right, well, let's make that our goal. There is so much more out there now than there was before. And don't be afraid to talk about it, ask questions. Sorry, my granddaughter's doing something, just kind of sidetracked us here.
That's okay.
She got her foot stuck in the box. And I guess for me, it's always, the more you talk about it, the more you'll come across somebody that's experiencing the same thing that you are, or maybe a little bit different. But it helps to talk.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just to kind of encapsulate that, I would say, just as we've said throughout all this, find yourself a community that you can relate to, educate yourself, and make sure that your family, as you move forward, is as close to typical as possible for yourselves, for your child, and for any other children you may have. I think that would be my advice. And laugh, definitely.
Laugh.
Mhm.
You gotta have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like
Life's
I said,
too serious to be taken seriously.
yeah.
Yes.
And
That's certainly true.
Yep. I like that.
yeah.
So, Brett, Cheryl, you know what? We can keep going on and on because I'm really enjoying this topic and you guys' honesty and being open about the fact there is, regardless of what happens, there is always hope, and you just got to keep digging. Keep researching, find things, find ways, and just like you said earlier, you're not going to avoid Connor of the Disneyland experience, going on an airplane, going to a restaurant, because he's still a human being, a part of this world and this universe. He should not be limited towards experiences because he has autism, and that's a great thing because it's always look at the coin on the other side, right? Most of us want to look at the head, so what's in front of us, but we don't know what's on the other side. So that's an amazing thing. So like I said, I wish we can last a little longer, but we got to wrap it up. It was a pleasure to have you guys aboard here talking about autism, how it's in the family. I learned something new today. It's definitely a huge spectrum. I definitely learned one thing that can apply to for the rest of my life. Don't always go what the doctor says. Keep digging for more research, find out, ask questions, and just never give up because there is something out there better, right? So as always, I'm going to let my audience know that this is Ron Johnson, a life and leadership coach. And if you guys have any questions or comments, you can always find me under Ron Johnson Life Coach on social media, Facebook, and also Instagram.
And this is Gloria, your life coach. Again, you can find me on my social media as well, Instagram, and my website is www.glorialifecoaching.com. Again, I'd like to thank Brett and Cheryl for joining us today and sharing your journey and your experiences on this with your family and your son, Connor. Again, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Life's a Shuffle.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.